Everyone. Here we are. We're starting our webinar here with Alex and Eva. We have a lot to talk about. A lot of you registered. It's a very well registered webinar. This is the part of the webinar where I stall a little bit. So if you're watching the recording, you can probably go forward a minute or so. The reason is that everybody logs in a little bit late. But while you're logging in, one thing to keep in mind is at the end of this presentation, we're going to have a Q&A live where we'll answer questions. If you're on Zoom, hit the Q&A button. If you're on LinkedIn Live, I'm not sure what button you hit, but you'll figure it out. There is Kate, who is standing by sort of in the wing. She'll watch the LinkedIn Live. I can't look at both Zoom and LinkedIn Live at the same time. But your questions will be answered usually in the order they come in. I always advise people that if you have a question come up, just write it up anyway, right away, rather than sitting there thinking about it or worrying about that maybe we'll answer it in the next question or something like that. Don't worry about that. I kind of manage that a little bit. And in any case, there's a lot going on in our industry. I'm very excited to have two great guests. If you're around the industry, you might know the names of our guests. They're really great people that are leaders. I'm also going to just, give a shameless plug. If you're involved in software, and in particular software internationalization and localization, you're looking for automation or consulting or just somebody to talk to you to help work with developers, or for developers to help plan, give us a ring. Just go to lingoport.com, and I guess that's really old fashioned to say give us a ring, but message us, and then we'll help you out. All right, so I'm going to start here. It's time to go in earnest. The numbers are racking up on the participants logging in, and here we go. All right, a little introduction. Eva, I met Eva at I think a dinner after Loc World years ago, and she was teaching me how to pronounce things, and I failed miserably. But in any case, Eva's been really quite an important person for the industry, both for commercial roles and educational. You can see on here her past experience at some very large, well-known global companies, but also more recently leading over at Middlebury Institute in Monterey. Some of you who are participating are doubtless familiar with that school. It really is the leading localization school, right up there with another one in Ireland for worldwide for teaching localization issues. So she's touching the future, not just the leaders in an organization. So I thought she'd have a lot to add to this conversation. And then Alex, if you're around LinkedIn, Alex is a really important person to follow. He is very much on top of technology trends. He's leading globalization technology at GitLab, so he has a very interesting impact on the future of development. If you're not familiar with GitLab, it's one of the leading repository mechanisms that's used when people write and collaborate for their software development. Alex has been around also. He's been quite the leader at a number of large organizations. And I've known Alex for a lot of years. I often ask him for development opinions and that sort of thing. So he's one of the people I rely on technologically. All right, with that, we're going to go to our questions. And these are questions for our panelists. Okay, so we're going to start here. I'm going to start with Eva. How has the role of localization professionals changed over the past decade or two?
I'm going to go a little bit farther back. because in a couple of months, it's going to be exactly 25 years since I got my first job in localization. And when I think back to those times, we had one CAT tool. TMS was in its infancy, and there were literally like a handful of companies who had a TMS solution at that time. We were using email and phone to communicate with our stakeholders, with our linguists, with anyone who did the work. So everything was very manual. The files were being pushed through FTP sites because email couldn't take anything larger than 1 megabyte. And the most revolutionary tool we were using at the time was Yahoo Messenger that suddenly allowed us instant communication. Now look at 25 years later, the ecosystem, there's so much going on that it's impossible to keep track of all of it. So many different tools, so much automation. The technology has evolved in leaps and bounds, and picking up a phone to call somebody to resolve anything is a very archaic mode that only probably people older than me still use. So the industry was changed through two things: through massive evolution of technology, and also the overall global economy, that this evolution of technology allowed big companies and even small companies to almost explode on the international stage. So the industry has changed a lot, from something that was small and niche and very manual to something that's big, global, extremely technical, affecting almost every aspect of what these global companies are doing. And the roles have had to change with it. From being glorified file pushers and emailers and phone callers, we have now become technology experts, business experts, user experience experts, international marketing experts, product marketing experts. So the role of a localizer has evolved so much that it's almost unrecognizable to what it was 25 years ago. And I was recently joking to somebody that I think Olex and I actually had that conversation, that if I had to be hired right now with my experience and degree I got then 25 years ago, nobody would give me a job. Because I simply didn't have the skills and the knowledge and the vast array of experience that necessary to be a localizer today.
I'm going to mention that what you're talking about is sort of the large elite companies that are very globalization oriented. There's still, I mean, I think if we were to look at the other side of the industry, like there's still a lot of people just like manually sending files to Google Translate, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Alex, do you have something to add?
Thanks, Adam. Eva, everything that Eva said, basically, I would only add that localization teams, localizers, have become increasingly, like you said, Eva, extremely technical and engineering savvy and digital marketing savvy. And thankfully, there are like schools and classes that teach that now that did not exist when we were starting around. To go back to Eva's joke, when I got hired for my first localization job, I was told this is Trados and this is a Windows Systems Administrator book. Go translate to Windows, Vista, and Microsoft Office, however you want. Not exactly like that. Today, it's increasingly technical. It's great to see in the past few years, localization teams opening roles and jobs for engineers, for like developers for I18N serious refactoring. So that's become super technical. And I have my new friend now. I talk a lot to Claude these days that I didn't before.
Very good. Very good. All right, next question. Let's go on. Why are young people joining localization today? What excites them the most? What concerns them? And Eva, I think this is you.
Yeah. So I'm speaking on behalf of our students. I cannot speak on behalf of the students at the universities in Europe, just to give you a small disclaimer. But what we are seeing in our localization program is students are most interested in entertainment and IT. Those are two biggest verticals that have been competing for the prime spot, because I've been tracking the data for the past 4 years. A couple of weeks before our students graduate, I asked them what are their dream jobs, indicate all the verticals you'd be interested in. So those are the top two. The third one is games. Interestingly enough, what has grown is life sciences. We still have a lot of students interested in life sciences that has grown. FinTech, it's a new area. Even online education and government and nonprofit. So our students are actually well-rounded, and even though entertainment, IT, and games lead, there's still a bunch of other verticals that attract a lot of attention from our students. They usually come to our program, which is a localization management program, because they're international, they speak multiple languages. They do not necessarily want to limit themselves to a career of a professional linguist. They want to work for big companies. And many of them are attracted to the technical aspect of localization, even though majority of the students we get are from traditional language and translation programs. So I actually made Intro to Programming a mandatory course for all of our incoming first-year students, and I was afraid that's going to be a problem given that they're coming from linguistic backgrounds, and it's actually it's been a hit, and people are very excited to be learning programming. The most exciting electives that we see them taking are evenly distributed between games, taught by my games localization by my colleague Max Troyer, John Ritzdorf's sales and solutions class, and my two classes, program management and localization practicum, which are focused on program management, operations, and strategy. Olex is actually one of my mentors and guest speakers in one of those classes. So they really appreciate the mix of not being stuck in one box, in one direction, the language, that they learn a lot about technology, they learn a lot about business, they have a vast array of electives that they can choose to then customize the career path they want to have in localization. What are they most concerned about? They have three major concerns. First one of them, because it's right before graduation, actually our graduation comes in a couple of months. It's finding a job and keeping a job for the next 3 years, because that's how long their OPT, their basically like immigration allowance, is valid. The job market is tough in the US right now, especially due to all of the layoffs. There is a lot of competition. However, the good news is that never in the 25 years that I've been in localization have I seen so many jobs opening in localization every single day. I'm reposting those jobs for our students in our private channel, and every day I post at least 2 new jobs. So that's actually a very, very good news. Second concern is obviously AI, and they're concerned with their and worried that their job might be obsolete in a few years, that AI will replace project managers and localization managers. And the third concern, unfortunately, with the reality of working in the US is immigration. Fewer and fewer companies are willing to sponsor work visas, and after their OPT immigration allowance expires after 3 years, or if they lose a job, they might not have another option, and they might have to leave the country. So, and the work visa is even more complicated now, that even if a company is willing to sponsor it, they still have to win an H-1B lottery. So these are the 3 concerns that not just our students, but all international workers in the US are facing at the moment. Like losing a job for somebody who is on a work visa is triple the amount of threat and catastrophe that it is for somebody who has a green card or is a citizen.
Yeah, I have no comment on that, but obviously, it's not a good thing for the country or I'm going to pass over that because I'll just get angry. Alex, I didn't have you down for an answer to that question, but I'll just see if you want to contribute anything further.
I've been an observer to that question through invitation by Eva to mentor students at Monterey Institute and to be part of the practicum for the technology track there. Worked with a group of several students on a weekly basis over like 6 months. Just seen the diversity there of people who are coming to be earning their degree. Like someone comes from a totally linguistically based background. Someone comes from zero background. Someone comes from, like there was one student who did some degree in physics in Florida and moved to California to take a translation degree. Others are programming their own games in Python and are able to hold up like super technical engineering savvy conversations. Lots of different personalities, lots of great diversity, joining localization for all kinds of reasons. And this is just great to see. I can imagine what's happening in like 15 years to them and to their jobs and to their impact.
Super. All right, I'm going to move here. By the way, I'm just going to mention we're getting some questions in on the chat and the Q&A interface. If you could use the Q&A interface on Zoom, that's really good. So it's all in one place for me, but I can click on another button if you use the chat, so it's okay. Keep the questions coming. We will take them on. Whoops. No, I'm good. What skills are essential for localization professionals now and in the future? Alex, let's hear from you first.
We could start anywhere on this. Localization skills, definitely, but any hard skills can be learned and picked up, like anything. The most important thing is to be a critical thinker and to like purposefully learn that, how to do critical thinking, how to think logically, how to communicate, practice how to communicate to be clear at all levels of communication, technical or executive, up or down. That comes super handy in the work environment. Anything hard skills can be picked up and learned on the job, like we all did. And I use this joke to describe my career. It goes like this. When my dad asked me when I was 6 years old in 1985 what I wanted to do for a living, I told him I wanted to be a software localizer, which is not true because there was no localization existing there. There was MS-DOS that was being localized, but nothing like this existed. So the skills that we are thinking may matter today will be very different and applied very differently in the future. You just have to be curious, critical, and tell the difference between synthetic and real in the age of AI.
All right.
I'm gonna add on that because Olex actually gave me a great segue. For me, the number one survival skill for now and in the future is flexibility and adaptability. And I was actually explaining it to a student this yesterday during a consult. Like imagine you're a tree, localization is a storm, and AI is the wind in the storm. If you bend, if you lean into different directions, you will survive. You might be a little battered, but you will survive. If you get stuck in this rigid mindset of this is what I am, this is what I learned, this is what the role is, this is my title, this is what I want to do now and forever, you might well be the tree that breaks. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, as well as knowing many, many leaders in our industry, every single one of them is a master at adapting and leaning in And every single one of them has reinvented themselves from what they originally studied their careers with, sometimes multiple times. Olex and I are actually great examples. We started our first job being university teachers and in our home countries, and here we are.
All right, very good. What advice would you give someone starting out in localization management? Eva, I'm picking on you first.
Okay, so first one is build a comprehensive skill set. Make sure that your skill toolbox has an equal blend of technical skills, interpersonal skills, EQ, leadership skills, understanding of languages and cultures, and intercultural competencies. AI can eventually replace us in technical skills, in workflows, in coding, and so on, but it cannot replace us in designing new and creative solutions, in leadership, in non-biased understanding of languages and cultures. And it will take a while to get there, not just in English, but in all the other languages that we have in the world. All the skills that I mentioned are transferable skills that you will be able to use not just in localization, but in many related, sometimes even unrelated jobs.
Very good. Alex.
From personal, everything that Eva said, of course, absolutely. From personal experience, in localization management, as in managing localization or leading localization or establishing localization from scratch when the function doesn't exist in a company, or turning it around, what matters is the ability to me at least, it worked, the ability to zoom in and zoom out. From super detailed things, you will inevitably talk about translation memory and TMSs. They will be around for a while, all the way to zooming out and flying over like an island and seeing what's happening and inferring decisions, making decisions from what you see from afar. Focus on business goals. So zoom in and zoom out is super important.
All right, very good. I can tell already that the result of this webinar is going to be like an awesome blog post. This is great stuff. These are pearls of wisdom. All right, question 5. How can we bake globalization into product development from the start rather than treating it as an extra step? Why is this important? And what benefits do proactive localization teams gain? I'm going to say it's a little unfair of me because this is a bunch of questions in one slide, but let's go through with this. Alex, I'm kind of leaning on you for this one.
Thanks, Adam. Yes, this is a number of questions in one, baked in one. How can we use technology? Okay. Well, localization and internationalization is, we all know it should be baked into product development. However, the truth is it rarely is. And that's why we have jobs and work to do in the future. Very rarely you would have a piece of content or a piece of product software that has been built with localization in mind. And also it's important, it's been my observation that things will become really technical really fast when you think of that question. You may talk immediately, dive when you talk about the software that supports global baked requirements. You talk about locale aware methods, ICU message formatting, externalizing hard-coded strings, concatenating messages. Things get really detailed right away. So you have to zoom in on things. But even those are super high-level ideas of a global product. Once you start peeling more layers after layers of complexity, you would find you need to understand every of those layers. And that's where skill set comes to your help. If you do not understand those layers, and no one usually does, it's impossible to know everything, Those layers are like front end, back end, database, business logic, design system of product, infrastructure, content, multilingual content management. You really, really need a technical counterpart or a team of internationalization developers. Goes back to my point where the teams are becoming increasingly technologically savvy. Without a team of engineers who can zoom into those things with yourself, with your ability to zoom in, zoom out, it's hard to even begin to think about baking global thinking or localization into product development. And only then the fun begins. When you have the team, you have enough material for discovering your technical debt, for building some sort of a roadmap, for imagining the future. You need to connect all of that to the real data and the real value and the real customer impact of whatever you do. Demonstrate why that baking is important. And along those lines, always be optimistic and be open to learning new things because they will come up.
Very good, very good. Just one of the adaptations that's happened over the years is really that it's very normal for development teams to be scattered around the world. That's been going on for a while, but I will say that one of our more popular services as a trend for what you're talking about is that we're getting hired to write internationalization guidelines for product teams, which are highly individualized based on the teams, the technology stack, the requirements, the concerns, any number of things that are really quite specific to a company. And it's just that's we used to get hired to it'd be like, here's our code, internationalize it. Now it's like, how do we stay internationalized? And I've got these teams and I've got turnover, and these people are in India, these people are in Poland, these people are actually scattered as individuals working out of their homes, So it's really a more fractured development environment these days in terms of personnel than it ever used to be. And so it's a little harder when a company has already, made the decision is quite low globalization mature. There's a turn from becoming global to, okay, we're globalization mature, but we need to maintain that. And I'm being unfair. I'm adding something that I've seen over the last 5 years in particular. So, all right. Eva, I didn't have you down for this question, but did you have anything you wanted to add? No? Okay.
No, I think Olex covered it very well.
Good. All right. How can we better position localization as a revenue enabler? Eva, I've got you as the primary on this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide that's going to sound very simple, but it's much more complicated and harder to execute. But I don't think we have a choice at this point. Step one, rename. We have to move completely away from positioning ourselves as a language solution or even a localization solution. Firstly, we're boxing ourselves into a very narrowly confined box. We're positioning ourselves as something that is language that is now being seen and less relevant, as something that can be easily replaced by AI. Whether that assumption is correct or not, but the assumption is there and it's prevalent in the higher levels of the company. And also just the word localization. How can you prove yourself that your function is critical when 90% of the company doesn't even understand what you do and what your title stands for? So that would be the first step, rename, move away from language, move away from localization. Go for at least globalization, if not something global content, global user experience, global programs, global content, and so on. Step two, educate and evangelize. You have to show people that what we take care of, and we have been taking care of for a long time, is not just translating from one language to another. We have been enabling international expansion, executing global go-to-market strategy. We've been the voice of our international customers. We've been ensuring proper global user experience. We've been the ones taking care of accessibility and so on. And we did this by not just simply being language experts, which is too constricting and doesn't serve us at all, but we did it by being multilingual and multicultural solution designers, international business experts, systems designers, technology experts, change agents, and risk takers. I don't think any role in the company has evolved so much in the 25 years as ours. And step 3 is you have to position yourself correctly. You have to present our industry and your own internal team, not as a service. And I know several companies that still have the word service in the name of their team, like a localization service. You have to present it and position it as a solution that's an integral part of international expansion, international product management, and content management. And so that requires some political maneuvering, influencing negotiations, and so on, because getting that seat at the table and making sure that you are being seen as the intersection of all of these important global functions is absolutely critical. I'm going to give you a couple of resources that can help you with this. I swear they don't even know I'm going to tell their names, but Anna Schlegel wrote a great book, Going Global, that you can look at if you don't know how to do localization at this scale and how to take it to the next level. But what I want you to check out is her LinkedIn profile and all the roles and titles that she had, especially in the past couple of companies, Procore and NetApp, that she worked at before she left the industry. And look at her last title, VP, Global. Genius. Okay. So that's literally a masterclass in positioning globalization, just checking out the last title she had and how she positioned her team within the company. And the second resource I want to recommend is Natalie Kelly's book, Take Your Company Global. She literally has a whole chapter devoted to enabling revenue with localization. I think it's chapter 4, so it's definitely a resource worth checking out. That will help you understand how the corporate thinks about us and how you need to speak to them with their understanding rather than coming from our understanding. I am a localizer and this is why I am important. You have to speak their language and think the way they think in order to make them understand how critical what we do actually is for their companies.
Wow. Okay. Two people that we should all be following on LinkedIn at the very least, not just looking at their profile. Anna doesn't.
And reading their books.
Yeah. Anna doesn't. She's moved on to politics in her homeland in Catalonia. But Natalie Kelly, wow, she puts out things all the time.
Yeah.
Like awesome blog posts that kill anybody. like Nimsy should be jealous, you know. All right. All right. This is our last question. I'm gonna, a little plug again for the Q&A. We've got some questions there. We'll get to them in just a minute. But our last question, it's AI it's the AI question. We always have to do that. It's transforming the industry. How does it make us more productive? Where is it an asset, distraction, or even a challenge? And we're going with Alex first.
Big question. Thanks, Adam. I would go on the productive side and unpack that a little bit. It has made everybody I know's and mine work lives very productive, like extremely much more productive. I've been using just my own examples, AI tools for all kinds of localization related tasks, localization management tasks, localization adjacent tasks, not directly translation involved, like terminology extraction, data analysis of all kinds, data from that is exported from TMS system, or data that's a collection of your translator questions that have been asked over 5 years that you never answered. Code refactoring for better support of internationalization, context harvesting during translation of certain things, like short UI strings, microcopy is really difficult to translate. For machine translation, for editing machine translation, for message recomposition, for localizability analysis of message composition and of text UI text patterns, for converting one types of content and one types of files to another. Like I can never stop with the list of things that I would have done with long hours or with specific skills, but I can do that with the help of a productivity booster. In all of that, there's one important thing. You need to know what you're doing. It's very easy to find the right answer to things, but it's very difficult to ask the right question.
Right. That brings to bear a lot of scrambling product development that's happening, not just from my company, but I know a lot to actually incorporate a lot of what you're talking about into the workflow automatically of what's being done. But we'll have future webinars on that. All right. Eva, I'm going to lean on you to answer this too.
I'm going to talk about the second part of this question. How can it become a distraction or even a challenge? So education has been taking AI very seriously. We're talking about it as much as localization is talking about AI. There's been a lot of research done already, and a couple of concerning trends have shown up with the youngest generation that are going to translate into all of the jobs, because that's the generation that's going to be entering the workforce really soon. The first one is that the younger generation cannot absorb the amounts of content that we've been used to absorbing. They cannot read books anymore, apparently. I mean, this is generalization, but it's definitely enough percentage of young students are showing this, that it's already on people's radar. That I remember I was at school, we had to read books, multiple books during the semester. Now they complain if they have more than 2 articles to read per week. So ability to read and absorb a lot of information suddenly is becoming a challenge. So we're kind of dumbing ourselves down because everybody is used to getting information quickly, cheaply, with minimal cognitive effort. And second concerning trend related to AI, they compare data from before 2022 and after 2022, when ChatGPT suddenly exploded. And they're seeing already an impact on cognitive abilities of students, that they go for the easy route of let just ask ChatGPT, it will give you the answer, rather than trying to figure out, okay, there might be a help here, I'm going to ask it, but I'm still going to do my own thinking. I'm still going to figure out if it's even a valid answer. I'm not going to take it at face value, and I'm going to try to focus on the bigger solution, and I'm going to use AI only as a tool to help me get to the answer faster, but not necessarily do the thinking for us. So one thing we have to remember, the moment we give technology the right to think for us, we're doomed. So I'm not against AI whatsoever, but let's use it as a tool. Let's not rely on it as a replacement for our own thinking, our own analysis, our own cognitive abilities, because they're critical to survival of not just our careers, but literally survival of us humans on this planet.
I really appreciate that warning. It brings us back to the critical thinking part of the skill set that was talked about on this webinar. Also, Alex mentioned asking the right question, and I think we can relate that that if you don't ask the right question, and even if you do sometimes, you have to have the ability to know if you're getting something that AI, my son uses he's all grown up, he's not little, but the description of confidentially incorrect AI answers, that seem very reasonable, but they're actually wrong. And the ability, the critical thinking to go, oh, well, I shouldn't take this answer. But of course, we're not throwing out AI at all. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to move on to the Q&A here. All right, we already have quite a few. I'm going to start with what I think was the first question here. Question for Eva. Is there still an interest among students to join agencies and gain experience on the agency side before working for clients in entertainment, life sciences, fintech, et cetera?
Yes, I was actually looking at data. I got our employment data just this week, and about 60% of our students actually end up having vendor side jobs, and about 40% get client side jobs. So it's almost equal. And
Right.
we encourage students to get vendor side jobs first, because you can gain the wealth and breadth of experience in so many different things that you can never get if you're only working on the client side company, only one company's product, solution, their workflows, their way of doing things.
Very good. All right. Is the knowledge of programming languages like Python an essential asset for linguists nowadays?
That would be an Olex question.
I can take that. Great question. It's short answer is yes, but there's a longer answer to that. It doesn't necessarily need to be any particular programming language. And even that, if you start unpacking that layers by layers, what does it mean? What do you mean by knowing a programming language? Do you go into like a boot camp and learn the loops and operators and all that outside of the context? Or do you need to have a certain way of mathematical thinking and cracking some problems and having a real problem at hand or a solution that you're trying to solve using a programming language? That becomes a different way of using a programming language. So absolutely yes. The way one of the ways I did it before was I took a hands-on learning class on now slightly outdated tech stack, like with Laravel and PHP, to create an app with a backend, with a database, with a front end, single page application, SPA. The moment you do it, the moment you see something you produce and it works, but you had the idea for what you wanted it to be like, important to ask the right question, the lights will go on. You'll just understand how things technologically work and how to use them in a sentence when you talk to other people who are engineers or product managers, technologists. So longer answer is yes, it's essential. Depends on the context of what you're trying to do with it, but you have to have a problem in mind or a task in mind to solve.
Well, often with Python, especially around localization, there's a heavy reliance on using it for writing custom scripts. For sure. I've worked with a lot of engineers in my lifespan and hired a lot also. In particular, if it's longer term, I look for somebody who could be comfortable in any programming language because they know how to think that way. It's back to the sort of the critical thinking in a programmatic mindset, whether they speak the target language or let's say it's JavaScript with a React framework. I don't really care if they know React. You know what I mean? If they're a good developer, they can learn that really quickly. But if they need to write a lot of scripts, I suppose Python is good. But I would actually invite people to go a lot beyond that. in terms of understanding computer programming, so that they can adapt to speaking with various teams and using various concepts. All right, I'm breaking my own rule of answering questions also. Next one, I'm looking at timestamps here. Question for, oh, this is a repost of a question that was in the chat. Never mind. All right. If you were to start your career in localization today, what would you focus localization? What would be your focus? Localization tooling or AI tools or project management? And there's a second added question on there, but let's take that. So back to, if you were to start your career in localization, would you focus on localization tooling, AI tools, or project management? Eva, I'm gonna pick.
Okay, I can take this because this is something that we advise our students to do.
Mhm.
We design our core curriculum where they have to learn all the basics: technical, project management, intercultural, interpersonal skills, as well as, what am I missing? Language. So quality management, vendor management, all of those fundamentals are included. And then we build upon that with electives that allow them to go deeper into technology or deeper into sales and account management and solutions design, or deeper into quality and all the language related stuff, or deeper into management with program management, leadership classes, and so on. So I think I don't think it's so differentiated anymore. I think every localizer has to have the foundation in everything. And then you can specialize in wherever your strengths and interests lie. But the foundation in everything, in business, in technology, in interpersonal skills, in language, quality management, vendor management, leadership, that I think that's non-negotiable for everyone.
I could
Very
add to that, Eva. The way the question is phrased, whether you focus on localization, tooling, AI, or project management, out of these three, no-brainer project management. There's a lot to that you just said, Eva, but project management gives you the framework of thinking, that zoom in, zoom out framework. When you take a project management class, certification, PMP, for example, the number one thing they teach you there is to think not transactionally, but to think big. Imagine your project is like you're managing a merger and acquisition of two oil companies from the north of Alberta in Canada, and there are subsidiaries and there are thousands of people and billions of dollars, and all of that is a project, not sending 100 words for translation. Like, how do you do that? That's the think big framework that will let you unpack your vision skills, communication skills, critical thinking skills.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I actually 100% agree with Olex. That's why for us, project management and advanced project management are also mandatory courses for everyone, even for those people who want to be localization engineers or who want to be language specialists or people who want to do vendor management or quality management or technology management. That's both classes are mandatory because we consider them part of the foundational skills for every localizer.
Awesome. Awesome answer. I love the think big analogy. This is a neat one. What are your go-to podcasts or blog? Not just localization, but AI. I'm reading it directly, but let's make it simple. What are your go-to podcasts or blogs that you like to read that help you be better people?
Do you want to go first, Alex?
Yeah, I can go, and I pulled up my phone to look at the podcasts that I'm subscribed to. AI podcasts. The truth is, they will tire you. A lot of AI podcasts are replays or rereads of whatever is published online. So probably don't go there. Go where people talk one of the favorite podcasts that makes me think and laugh and draw analogies to tech and AI aspects is probably you never heard of this. It's called Because Language. It's a conversation between 3 linguists. At least 2 of them are professional linguists, like linguists, not translators, linguistics, very heavily involved in linguistic research. And they talk about fun stuff, about AI, about technology, but in a way that makes you feel good and want to learn more new things.
Awesome. Awesome. Anything to add there, Eva?
I'm actually not a podcast person. As a professor who runs a department, I have to talk and listen to people every single day. So my brain needs to switch. So I don't actually do podcasts, but there are some blogs I follow. Some of them are specifically localization related. So I read everything that Natalie Kelly posts, that Renato Beninato posts, that Nimzi and Multilingual post. But I also focus on things outside of the industry that I believe are very important and that enrich my overall understanding of business. I follow Adam Grant, who is a Wharton professor and organizational psychologist. He has amazing things. There is one, actually, it is kind of like a podcast / vlog, but I can't remember the name of the guy that I follow. I will have to find it. That one is amazing. There is, I follow David Citron, who posts about neurodivergence and ADHD specifically, that helps me be more inclusive and be more understanding towards students and coworkers with disabilities. I also follow Rachel Radway for the same reason, because she talks about high sensory perception and how to manage yourself and your work when you have high sensory perception. So there's amazing stuff on LinkedIn if you weed out the people who are there for self-promotion, who are just doing blah, blah, blah. You have to do some unfollowing and disconnecting from those people clogging your inbox, and then LinkedIn will learn your algorithm and will show you some really amazing people who have great things to share. And I prefer LinkedIn because I can usually read it in like 5 minutes or so.
All right. We're getting some thank yous rolling in. By the way, a couple of links are in the chat to blogs and the like mentioned from.
Sorry, I posted the ones that I can find like right away, but I'm sure we'll include links to the others that Eva mentioned and Alex in our follow-up letter email with the recording. We will send those links as well.
All right, and Alex wants you to reach out. You can probably do so via LinkedIn. One last check. Was there anything on LinkedIn Live that somebody wanted to ask? That's a question for
no, there were not. No.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I think we've really had a great time. I've enjoyed putting this webinar together with Eva and Alex. I mean, it's always a participative exercise, and you guys have been great. Really appreciate the answers. I think they're helpful for seasoned pros as well as those new to the industry. So I think this was a great service. Recordings will be coming to you if you've registered without you having to do anything. That'll just show up as an email. Hopefully not in your spam folder. We do a lot of work to get out of your spam folders. We'll also probably have a write-up on our blog on lingoport.com, which I'm sad none of you included, but we're not as prolific as some of the others you've mentioned. But anyway, thank you again. You've been great, and thank you to the audience for all your great questions and for being here. Take care, everyone.
Thank you for having us.